Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check today's video out and spending some time with me. Guys, today I got another story for y'all. I'm going to talk about probably the biggest boat dock Karen I have ever been around in my entire life, and I've been around a bunch of them, and I've actually, done some videos on some of them I've been around, but this is one I've never done before. So I'm going to give you guys a nice little story here and sort of gives you an indication of some of the people you run into on the water out there in today's episode. I'm also, guys, big thank you. I just want to let everybody know I really appreciate everybody that's taken time to use and bookmark my tackle warehouse link in every video description to purchase your tackle. I know you guys get tired of me hearing about or talking about this, but it's a big deal to the channel. It keeps the channel on YouTube, and thank you very much for everybody that's been doing that. And also, guys, just a quick reminder, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler. Just shoot me a private message and I'll get y'all set up with the details on that. So really appreciate that. Okay, guys, I've talked a lot about, I've probably done 2 or 3 different videos on boat dock Karens. This, I don't think I've ever told this one before. I want to get into it. And then I want to get into the bigger picture of why there shouldn't be docks allowed on lakes, period, to begin with after that. Okay, this particular one, it was down at Beaver Lake in Arkansas, and this was back, man, this has probably been 25 years ago. And you got to understand, back then, there wasn't you didn't have these laws in place that you do now, like on some of the lakes around the country, where you can't fish around marina docks. That was not a thing back then. I'm going to explain to you guys how that changed a little bit, because it's a bunch of crap about how it changed. But anyway, I was down there, I was practicing for an FLW tour event on Beaver Lake. First day of practice down there. And anyway, it was a springtime of the year tournament, and marina docks are usually always good to fish around in the springtime of the year. Bass just love to be around those areas. So I went over there and I started fishing around it. You got to remember, back then, there wasn't any rules or regulations at all against fishing around, docks. It just didn't exist. So I start fishing around this dock, working my way around the marina dock. And this guy comes, walking down to the water really fast. He's like a big, aggressive, loudmouth type guy. I could already tell just by his demeanor. And he gets down there and goes, "Hey, there's no fishing around these boat docks down here." And I'm sort of like laughed a little bit. "So what are you talking about?" He goes, "These are off limits." He goes, "There's no fishing within 100 feet of these docks because it's a state law." And I go, "It's no state law that you keep." I said, "You don't have any right to keep people from fishing around these docks." I said, This is a public body of water." I said, how do you justify, or what do you talk? How in the world do you take a public body of water and tell somebody you can't fish on that? "Oh, that's just there's been a law change and that's just the way it is," like that. I said, "Well, I'd never heard about that. I'm going to keep fishing." He goes, "You need to get out of here right now." He goes, "I'm going to call the sheriff and get you out of here." I said, "Fine, go call the sheriff. Get him down here. I'll talk to him." And at this point, this guy was getting on my nerves, and I was not going to leave just out of spite at this point. So anyway, he goes back up, comes back down, and I don't even know if he called the sheriff or not. But anyway, he starts throwing rocks in the water around me, everywhere. And it's at this point I said, "Are you kidding me?" So I called the tournament director at the time, and I explained the situation. Bill Taylor, FLW tour director, and I explained the situation to Bill, and I said, "Bill," I said, "is there any law, do you know of any law about not being able to fish around these marina docks?" And he goes, "Well, not that I know of." He goes, "There's no law that we have or that I'm aware of." And I said, "Well, that's what I thought, So anyway, I got off the phone. I told the guy that. He goes, "There's no fishing around these docks." He goes, "This is illegal." He goes, "That sheriff's going to be down here any minute." The guy keeps throwing rocks around my boat. And I told him, I said, "You better hope that one of those rocks do not land or hit my boat." And he's followed me down the bank, throwing rocks in all around me. Finally, I just got to the point, so this is ridiculous, and left. Okay, so here's the bigger picture with that thing, what we're talking about, and how this all started. Number one is that these are public bodies of water that we fish on, and people have zero right to put a dock on a lake and then tell somebody they can't fish around that dock on a public body of water. You should be able to fish anywhere you want to. And if somebody hits your dock accidentally or whatever, that's just part of the deal about you putting a dock somewhere where it shouldn't be. That shouldn't be any anglers. It's like it's such a violation of a taxpayer right that somebody should be able to put a dock in and limit or tell somebody where they can and can't fish. It's absolutely stupid. It's ridiculous. It's un-American. And here's what happened that I have found out about that. This whole thing about these dock rights that these dock owners have, most of it was instituted by people that knew, like state representatives or congressmen, that passed some type of legislation to keep people from doing that. Prime example here in Missouri, guys, there was a law put into place a couple of years ago where you could not anchor within 100 foot of a boat dock. Apparently, from the story I heard, there was this rich dock owner, excuse me, didn't want people around his docks, and he was buddies with some state representative or state senator here in Missouri or something, got a law passed because his buddy was a state senator, and now it's illegal to have your boat anchored within 100 foot of a boat dock. It's the same with all these marina docks. It says no fishing within 50 or 100 foot of the dock. That is laws that have been put in place by state representatives and state lawmaking officials, basically out of just doing a favor to their buddies that own a dock. That is my opinion. That is what's been verified over and over again. It's a bunch of crap. In my opinion, as far as in the perfect world, if we ever get somebody like myself, if I was elected as a state representative or state senator, the first thing I would do is take away freaking every right that a boat dock owner had. And I would tell them, you will allow anybody to fish anywhere they want to around this dock. You are not going to keep somebody from fishing around this dock. As a matter of fact, we're gonna put so much taxes on these docks that you're probably gonna have to pull this dock out of the water because you're infringing upon an angler's right to be able to fish down a bank. There's been so many different docks put in down at Table Rock Lake. I've got so many different guys like rock transitions where you could go down there and parallel the bank with a crankbait or a wiggle wart or something like that and catch a bunch of fish. And now there's been freaking dock owners put docks all over those areas, completely ruined them. You can't even fish like that anymore. In fact, like I said, if I ever decide to run and if I ever get elected, the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be the biggest freaking nightmare to dock owners in the state of Missouri than you've ever seen. It will be the most fisherman friendly, state in the country in terms of everything will be, set up to be fisherman friendly. There will be no rights impended upon bass anglers, no rights impended upon, anglers in general to enjoy the public body of water that we subsidize through our taxpayer dollars. So anyway, guys, like I said, if you fish enough, you're going to run into these dock owners. And like I said, they don't have two legs to stand on. They are in violation of, violating our public waters, taxpayer funded waters in order to have their own little personal whatever. So why in the world should some dude that puts a boat dock in there have the right to impede upon a bass angler's ability to fish in and around that particular area just because they decided they want to have a dock? It's not right. So anyway, guys, maybe I'll do that. It's like maybe we'll get a big petition to get together. I'll run for some political office here, and I'll make fishing the greatest thing it's ever been before, and get rid of anyone that stands in the way, anybody that pollutes our water, anybody that takes away our rights to fish, anybody that does anything to undermine the future sustainability of the anglers and the fishermen. I'll be the worst nightmare, man. So anyway, guys, let me know what y'all think about it. We'll talk later.